Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, and today I am joined with the creator of the Kill Team Championships packet, Sheldon, or as you may know him, Kill Team Stream. He's also done the LVO packets. Before COVID and the times of TTS, LVO was the largest Kill Team event in the world. I think we hit, I want to say 65 players. I seem to recall it was a really awkward number. Maybe I'm making that up. But hi, Sheldon, do you want to introduce yourself very quickly?
Yeah, I'm Sheldon. I'm a TO, and I also play Kill Team. I love this channel. And thank you for being on. Thank you for having me on. I made this packet so that anybody can play all around the world. So I'm really excited to talk about it and get the word out.
Awesome. Yeah, so just, I guess, a quick little bit of background before we jump into this. We're both going to be assuming that everybody out there is pretty new because obviously we've just had Pariah Nexus. We probably have a large influx of new players. We have a lot of people new to Kill Team competitive or just, new ways of playing. And so
Yeah.
they may not have played your old packets. I think the one from you I really liked was called, oh no, it was Hell
Slaughter Zone.
Slaughterfest, Slaughter Zone. I really liked Slaughter Zone. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And this obviously isn't that, but it is, I would say, actually rather similar. So I'm looking forward to checking this out with you now and hopefully to
Nice.
explaining to other people. But again, as I was saying, before COVID hit, you were kind of the only guy putting out like well-produced packs. The LVO and Slaughter Zone being the main ones that stick with me in my mind.
Well, I'm the TO now for all of like the major frontline Kill Team events, other than there's gonna be a new one in Atlantic City. But for all the big ones that were in the West Coast, I've been TOing I'm gonna TO those this year. Hopefully, if COVID, all that stuff. The tournament packets are just sort of a way so that people can prepare in advance and then know what all the rules are going to be at the event, so that everybody's operating on the same with the same missions, the same rules, and everything, so that it's a fair and balanced tournament.
Okay, yeah,
So,
sounds awesome.
yeah.
Before we jump straight into it and really tell people what the packet is, mainly, I mean, that's the main thing people need to know, obviously, and also why you should play this over anything else, perhaps. Of course, before we do that, we have to say a big double hello to everybody out there that is a subscriber of my channel. You get the double hello because subscribers really mean a lot to the channels and algorithms, I guess. So thank you very much for that. If you want your own double hello, subscribe for this video, leave a like and a comment, and in the next video you will also get that double hello. Now let's talk Kill Team Championships 2021.
All
Hopefully,
right.
now obviously we're mainly doing this as a little interview podcast type thing, but for anybody that is actually following along, or you hear us say something that's particularly strange, just look up on the screen, you can see the pack behind us. Okay, this is a competitive mission packet, so let's jump through. Bit of a random
All
one.
right.
I should not start with this question. Why have you gone with a fire warrior as like the main splash page? Is there a reason for that?
Oh, it was
Oh,
just a cool image.
okay, yeah.
Tau, I think, are going to be one of the strong ones on this packet for sure.
Okay,
So,
well,
you know,
okay. So
gotta look good.
before we jump into a general overview of the pack, okay, first page, primary formats. This is looking at a touch complicated, perhaps, for new
Yeah.
players. What am I seeing here?
So there's sort of been a lot of different formats in the Kill Team competitive community. So I kind of wanted to put them all in one place, so that if you want to play 100 points, 125 points, commanders, hold, kill, hold, the original tournament style that GW had in Arena, or the new one that they've introduced in Pariah Nexus. It's all in one place. No matter what you're gonna try and play, at least there's some consistency with the rules and the secondaries, so everybody can pick at the very onset of their game, if they're doing a casual game or if they're actually going to be at a tournament. There will be one format at the tournament, or if you're in a casual game, you can pick which format before you play with your opponent. And there's technically 5 different options. There's the hold, kill at 100 and 125 points, hold at 100 and 125, and then also the commanders at 200 points, all sort of standardized formats that we've sort of come to see at a lot of events. I wanted to make sure that they were all available. So, if a TO wants to run an event, can this work with my format? It's right there. These are the rules if you want to do that format, and it makes it really easy, hopefully, for people to just see. Oh, okay, if you want hold kill, you can pretty much just ignore the other two. If you want hold, you can ignore the other two and just look at the rules for that one individual format.
Okay, so as a new player looking through this, I basically pick my points and the type of primary objective I'm looking for, and then the rest of the pack is identical. I'm using the same secondaries, deployments, objectives, bonus objectives, whatever else may be in this pack, terrain layouts. But this page is where I pick what game am I playing, which for me, I'm a hold kill 1-2-5 guy. That's what I enjoy the most.
Same here.
I think that's kind of the standard, really. For anybody out there, give hold kill 125. I think it's where there's a lot of balance to be found, and there's also a lot of good fun. But you can still, in a kind of fun way, get away with a few janky lists, like things that people won't see coming. And I think that's a really good place to do that. But the standard, straight out of the book, is hold 300 points. That's essentially what you get in the Kill Team core manual.
Yeah, the 100 points is sort of the GW standard way to play. 125 is we saw it in elites, but they didn't really try to push it off as like a standardized format. But the competitive community kind of took it and ran with it. We've been doing 125 points pretty much since the elites book came out, and it's everybody's enjoyed it. I don't think I haven't heard too many people say that they don't like 125 points.
Yeah, I mean, some people are against it, but whatever. We're not talking about them at the moment. That's a whole that's a whole other video.
Well, if you're against it, you can use 100 points in this packet. So
exactly, that's the whole point of this packet. No matter what type, assuming that you like to play any of the main formats that have come out in the past 3 years, this pack basically has that. So I'm really excited for this because it means I can go down to my local game store, I can take this pack, and I can play any format that anybody else wants to play using just this. And I think for me, that's kind of the big benefit of this pack, just the flexibility you've included. And of course, we're about to get into exactly what all of it means with the secondaries, because those are huge for a competitive pack. Terrain layout suggestions, well, they're not suggestions in your pack, sorry, but terrain layouts, and just ways to play the game. But that's my takeaway from this. If you had to kind of do a proper elevator pitch, if you haven't already done that, maybe you have, what would you say, hey, this is why you play this pack?
Well, the idea behind it is that it's supposed to standardize competitive kill team for pretty much everywhere. The idea is that that the main events from Frontline are going to be run with this. So any tournament that a small game store out somewhere wants to run, they know that if they have this, that it's going to be played at the bigger events. So people that are super competitive in your area will want to maybe come just to practice. And then people who aren't competitive, maybe minded, they'll still get fun out of it and still be able to have a good time. And there's a level of like prestige to the fact that this is also being used by the major events. And a lot of the resources that I've included with this, if you go to my website and actually click on it, there's a whole TO resources area where people can get like cards and all sorts of like all the score sheets and everything. It's really easy for a store to run an event with this packet. And I tried to make it super easy. All the FAQ, base sizes, everything a TO could possibly want is all there, so that it's like anyone can run an event at their store, or the store owner could decide that they want to run Kill Team. It makes it super easy for just anyone to run a tournament for Kill Team. That was the goal.
Excellent. Now, I suppose this should have been part of the introduction. KillTeamStream.com.
Oh, yeah.
that is where you can get this, and it's also where all of the other resources that you have put together are. Primarily, for those of you out there that are looking to get into competitive, there's a base guide size, which is something you typically need to follow. There's also a community FAQ. So, within Kill Team, there are a couple, one or two questions that Games Workshop didn't... they used questionable wording. which leads the community had to step in because GW hasn't given us a really comprehensive FAQ, and so we just have a few community rulings, just for ease of use. If you're playing with somebody else and you come up to one of these problems, hey, yeah, sure, you could just roll off 50-50, it goes to you, 50-50, it goes to me, but obviously that's not good enough in a tournament. We want to know what's the actual way to play. So
I call them the contentious questions.
The contentious questions, a good one. And then there's also, what's the other thing? Subfactions. For those of you unaware, GW, again, has not given every single faction sub-factions like you get in the Elites book. Well, you decided, that's not quite good enough, and that in your packets, whenever you're there running a packet, this is your latest packet, the sub-factions for certain ones will be legal. These include Sisters of Battle, Elicidian Star Riders, Gellerpox Infected, Kroot,
Servants of the Abyss?
Servants of the Abyss, and Demons. Is that it?
Yep.
6?
Did you say Sisters of Silence? I think you did.
Sisters of Silence.
But yeah.
I said Sisters of Battle. Okay. Do Custodies get one, out of curiosity?
No. Custodies already have theirs. Technically, Custodies, I get this question a lot because Custodies, Death Guard, Thousand Suns, people don't realize that they actually technically already have a sub-faction that they got in Elites. It's just not as... There's not as many options.
It's not an option, but it's a sub-faction. Okay. Those are our... I suppose the final thing I want to say before we actually dive into the packet proper, for those of you unaware, I mentioned LVO very briefly at the beginning. That stands for Las Vegas Open. Do you pronounce it Las or Los? Las. Hey guys, let's go to Las Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Las Vegas. Anyway, I'm going to stop doing that. Las Vegas, this was the ground zero of Kill Team's largest in-person event. I say in-person. I don't think TTS has... Or maybe TTS has gone larger since then. I don't know. Either way.
Oh, yeah. Technically, my Bay Area tournament simulation was technically the biggest Kill Team tournament ever, and that was held on TTS.
Okay.
But, yeah, out of all the physical tournaments, LVO has been the biggest so far.
And so that's been the biggest. It's also, I believe, if you follow the ITC rankings, which, let's not get into it, that's just a way that different people can compare how good they are in the game to other people. It's a thing. If you know what it is, you know what it is. If you don't worry about it. It's just a competitive thing to compare yourself with other people around the world. But in that specific thing, you build up your points, and LVO happens to fall on like the last day of the competitive year. And so it's kind of whoever wins that potentially also wins this kind of larger ITC pool thing, as well as the LVO tournament. So it's all kind of wrapped together a little bit. This is less important to the Kill Team than 40k, but it's still a thing.
Yeah, the ITC is like the governing body for who's doing the best for that year. The LVO is not only the last, but it's also the first competition of every year, because there's a Sunday event usually that falls into the next calendar year of ITC, and so you kind of get that shot at one event of sort of securing your position. If you're old guard and you're already in that top 5 and you're vying for that position, it's a good spot to come and get those last few points. Or alternatively, if you're looking to start the year off running, it's a good spot to kind of get those first major score down onto the scorecard sort of thing.
Excellent. Yes, because if you want to get a certain number of points, you have to do a tournament over a certain number of players, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, you can do any tournament, but you can only have 3 scores that are saved from a tournament. I think it's like, it's called an RTT, but it's essentially any tournament. I think it's like...
Let's move on.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
Let's move on. Doesn't matter. So basically, LVO, one of the big ones, and one of the few places where you can get that larger score number if you're really going for the ITC. And this was run last year.
Yep.
LVO is skipping this year, 2021. That's what we're in now, isn't it?
For obvious reasons. Yeah.
But we're hoping, fingers crossed, who knows with the world it is, but we're hoping it's going to be on in 2022 again.
That's the goal. I mean, that's what we're preparing for. So
let's hope so. A
big reason why I put out this packet, so that people know how to prepare for those big events.
I mean, I'd love to go. I've had my year off. I've had my 9 months living with my parents. I'm ready to do something. Oh my god.
Ready to travel the world again
Let me tell you,
for Kill
yes.
Team?
As soon as England is out of lockdown and I can leave the country, I am. Okay? I need to do
Yeah.
something. Anyway, let's not gripe on that. Let's get it. So if you're a beginner, you don't really know what's up, I hope now you do. That's kind of all the basics. If you just want a way to play with your friends, this is still good. It doesn't have to be competitive and everything top tier, hyper efficient. These are just good rules. You have some really interesting terrain setups. You've got the basics for the primaries. You don't really need to use secondaries if you're keeping it super casual. Just enjoy yourself. However, with that said,
Yeah.
let's get into it a little bit more
All
deeply.
right.
So, going to the second page. Is there anything? So we already touched on the sub factions. That just tells you
Yeah.
there. There's a few extra changes alongside, right?
Yeah, there's a few changes just for, quality of life things. If you are playing any of these factions that are listed here, you have one or two little special rules. So Kroot, obviously, if you're going to be playing Kroot, you can increase the max number of the Kroot Tox riders that you have, or the Hounds. If you're playing Elucidian Star Striders, you can increase the max number of Voidsmen and the Voidsman Gunners. If you're an Adeptus Sororitas or Sisters of Battle, you can increase the max of the Sister Repentia. And then Adeptus Astartes, the Death Denied tactic that you made, that DD3CP, the
Yeah,
great
yeah.
Tau drone, is
He's great.
going to be costing 3 command points for this tournament. And before all the Astartes players show up with the pitchforks, it is a 3 command point format, which we'll get into later. So
Right.
there's a kind of a really good reason for that change. So hopefully they'll understand once we get further into the packet. Death Guard, you can increase the max number of the Plague Marine fighters to 3. For Harlequins, in non-commander formats, psychic powers other than Perils of the Warp cannot target more than a single Harlequin player model each turn. And if that model dies, then no more psychic powers may be used that turn. So essentially, the player, if you know about Harlequins, is the one model that they have access to if you're not playing commanders. Essentially, it's saying that if you're playing against Grey Knights or Thousand Suns, where they have access to 2 psychic powers a turn, they can only target a single one of these models. So if a Grey Knight player, for instance, does a Psybolt and it doesn't kill that player model, they can then target their second Psybolt against that same player model. But if that Psybolt ends up killing that player model, then they can't do a second Psybolt that turn. So it's kind of limiting the bad matchup for Harlequins in
In the psychic
against
case, sure.
Psychic. Yeah.
Okay. Now, is all of this purely a balancing act, or is some of this you think GW just hasn't given us an FAQ and you're correcting it, or what?
For some of it, it's balancing. I think the one thing in here that I think that the Sister Repentia was just a typo, so that's why I put that in there.
I think
But
most people agree.
yeah, everything else is a balance fix, and it's just from lots of games that we've been playing, TTS and over on the Command Point Discord. Shout out to those guys. They run a lot of TTS tournaments and events, so we've been getting lots of chances to see Harlequins just getting murdered by Grey Knights.
That will happen. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good changes there. Primarily because it's not like we've seen any of these teams actually do. Apart from Death Guard, I am actually surprised you've done that to Death Guard. I also don't think it will have that huge of an effect, but I'm surprised to see Death Guard having any modifications. I guess maybe just me personally, I don't see them as a weak army.
Yeah, they're not weak. This was just a balance thing because of I think in 125 points especially, it's they've had a hard time kind of keeping up in terms of like the playstyle and balance. I think this gives them a few more options.
Fair enough. Now, just very quickly, I'll for those that can't see, objective markers, you're counting them as being infinitely high. So if there's a piece of terrain on top of that objective, you can get on top of that terrain and you're capturing it, which is just something to note. Because that's always...
Think of it like a point that's just extending infinitely into space. So if you're 2 inches away from that point, no matter how tall or high up above it you are, you're still going to be scoring it. Instead of the usual, which is more like a sphere, where if you're 2 inches above it, you wouldn't be able to control the
Yeah.
objective.
Oh, and also worthy of note is that, oh, we didn't mention it earlier, but there are both Arena and Pariah Nexus boards included in this pack, and walls and doors will not block that 2-inch radius. So potentially you could
Exactly.
have the objective on the other side of a wall, and if you're on the other side, you would still be able to capture it. I don't think that ever comes up, but hypothetically you could. I think
It
it
comes
comes up
up
with
in a
doors.
couple of the missions. If I
Okay,
did the math the other day, and there's about 84 different missions. If
okay.
you do all the different missions on all the different board types, and in a couple of them, I think it's sort of inside a door,
Right.
and
Oh,
so
in a
that
door, yeah, yeah. So moving on to secondaries. Now, obviously, we could just talk through every single secondary because secondaries are super important. Each secondary will benefit a different team in a different way. Some teams will
yeah,
just never look at certain secondaries, while others will be their best one, etc. But very quickly, you've split them into 3 groups: action,
yes,
movement, and special. And they're
yep.
all color coded, and that will be relevant in a moment. But can you tell us why that is? Because we're not allowed to just free pick here, are we?
You're allowed to free pick to an extent. So there are 3 different groups, like you said. You can only choose 2 secondaries from a single group in one game. So essentially, you can only pick 2 action secondaries and maybe a movement and or a special secondary in addition. So it kind of limits you to taking You can't take 3 movement. You can't take 3 action. You can't take 3 special. It's just limiting
Yeah.
that. But you can take 2 of any group in any game.
And they are revealed secondaries.
Correct. Yeah. So instead of like in Pariah or Arena, where you hide the secondaries from your opponent until you score them, in this they are revealed right at the beginning of the game. So there's no shenanigans. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows what everybody has. Makes it really easy for stopping cheating. There's a lot of different things that this helps, but I think it just it also helps newer players because they can see what their opponent's doing. They know they're not getting caught off guard by they took some crazy secondary I didn't even know was in there,
Sure.
etc.
Now, very quickly, before we move on from this, if you've got any beginners still with us, you're suddenly seeing 18 different secondaries or whatever it may be.
Yep.
Don't freak out. Secondaries are not that scary. So I know that when I was playing a game I didn't understand, let's say 40k, because I've been okay with Kill Team, because I've been introduced to that very slowly. But when I moved up to 40k, I found secondaries a little bit overwhelming, because I'm still learning the game. Now I also have to pick the secondaries that are best for me and my army, and I don't know. And so
Yeah.
often in a game, you can pick bad secondaries, which mean you cannot win the game, which is obviously a really big issue. I would
Yeah.
say chill out. This gets much easier to figure out in a moment. If you're new, don't just read this long list of secondaries, okay? That's going to scare you. Wait until a moment later where it all becomes clear and it becomes far more manageable in my idea. So, very quickly, we're not going to go through every secondary because nobody needs
Okay.
us discussing 18 secondaries. No one's retaining that information.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick out any that have perhaps changed subtle wording from previous packs? This obviously less so for a beginner, but more for the
Yeah.
more advanced people that are thinking, oh, well, I'm going to take domination because I know domination's an easy one and I just have to be on the center point, but perhaps that's not the case or some such.
Yeah. For instance, Death from Afar has changed. Just the wording so that it's clearer. It's just saying half or over half the range. Um, Abduction is a brand new one. If you haven't played my previous year's packet, um, Reaper hasn't changed. Mind Games is the same. Overkill has changed. Um, Now you can score Overkill if you use a heavy rock cutter from the Gene
Ah,
Stealer cults, which
cool.
I think
Wasn't
is
possible before, yes, which was very confusing,
pretty much
but
the definition of overkill. So,
yeah. And
well, when this,
just to quickly clarify, in general, most of these, I believe, I haven't checked all of them, have changed wording ever so slightly so that it's not the model is killed, a model is taken out of action. So if
Yeah,
the enemy blows himself up with a plasma or uses drone savior protocols, because an enemy model was taken out of action, it still generally is going to count as you get that secondary or primary,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. If it says is taken out of action, that means that even if they battle brothers it or
Mm,
savior protocols, that it still
okay.
counts, which is I think something that people were really talking about a lot in previous packs because a lot of people would game that system, especially with Tau drones. Yeah, just a interaction that I think it's healthier for the game if it's clearer. Oh yeah, so domination is the same, pretty much hasn't changed for since the beginning of Kill Team, so that one's nice. Steadfast is the same as previous packets, so no big change there.
Oh, I
Dogpile,
suppose we have to quickly mention Pariah Nexus has updated
yes.
secondaries. Sorry, primaries is the number of wounds or the wound characteristic of the model,
Ah,
not number of models. What is your pack doing with that?
so that's not the way that it runs in this packet. But I'm going to put a caveat on that. If GW puts out a new Kill Team 2.0 or whatever we've been talking about, and
Mm.
they update all of the wounds characteristics of everyone except for everyone that isn't Astartes, then I would transition to that format.
Okay.
Right now, I think that wounds characteristic scoring is pretty much just becomes objective secured for Astartes. So I don't think that it's the best thing to implement like right now.
Okay.
Um, but I think if we see before the actual event them updating the wounds characteristics of all the other teams, I would be willing to change that in my packet. You know what I
Sure.
mean? So that's a caveat that right now that's not how it works,
Okay.
but it could be if
If we
they made
get
those
an
changes.
FAQ, the holy grail FAQ that changes everything, or something like
Yeah,
that, then
exactly.
it might change. But at the moment, we're still just doing as we've done for the whole of the rest of Kill Team, models on the objective, not wounds characteristic. Okay, sorry.
Exactly.
Keep going.
Yeah, so engage on all fronts is actually the new Pariah Nexus wording. So you can't double up with domination. So engage on all fronts is the four quarters of the battle if you have a model wholly in each. But now you can't score it if you're within 3 inches of the center.
Hmm.
Art of combat. It looks like it changed, but it's really the same. I just kind of moved some of the words around, so it's a little bit easier to understand because a lot of people were having trouble understanding. But
Yes.
essentially, for Art of Combat, you can do two things. You can either consolidate into an enemy model, retreat, or fall back. You can do if you do any combination of two of those. Like
Okay.
so, if you do two consolidations, two retreats, two fallbacks, or one fallback and one retreat, one fallback and one consolidate. So that's
Yeah, so to
hopefully
clarify
a little
here,
bit
the
more.
retreat or fallback has nothing to do with the previous sentence of being within 1 inch of. It's consolidate
Exactly.
within 1 inch, full stop,
Yep.
retreat, full stop, fallback. Those are the three ways of scoring. Cool. Okay.
Correct. And then hold the perimeter is the same as my previous packets. Old school hasn't changed in the last few packets. Lead from the front is new, brand new secondary. Um, brace yourselves hasn't changed. Survivor hasn't changed. Complete control hasn't changed, but bounty hunters has. This is actually an
Okay.
interesting one. So
Mm.
um, previously, with bounty hunters, if a model dies, you place a token connected to its base, and then you can pick it up at the end of a movement.
Mm.
In this, that's similar, except that you put it directly underneath where the model was, so it's a little bit more clear. You're not worried about like, oh, could I put it like anywhere around here? Does it have to be in a specific spot? It's just right underneath, so it's really clear where it goes, wholly underneath the base of the model that dies.
Mm.
And then in addition, I've added at the end of every battle round, If an enemy model is in contact with any of your tokens, they may remove one of these tokens from the board. They can't remove more than one token per turn.
Okay.
So Bounty Hunters was kind of an auto take for a lot of teams. Hopefully this makes it a little bit more give and take, a little bit a little less easy to just auto score.
So to clarify with Bounty Hunters, let's say I've ended up as I was the one that took Bounty Hunters, and
Yep.
I now have 3 or 4 different tokens all on the board. It used to be a case of one model could only ever pick one up, but you could end up picking up all 3 in a single turn. Is that still the case?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can pick up multiple as long as they're done by different models.
Excellent. Okay. So I could score all 3 in a single phase potentially.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Whereas old school and lead from the front, just to quickly point out, are those the only 2 that have the diamonds next to them? Yes. And what do those mean
Whirlwind.
exactly? Oh, Whirlwind. Okay. Yep.
Oh,
Whirlwind does have it. Yes.
I should. Bounty Hunter should also have a diamond. Actually.
Okay. And the diamond just means that it can be scored multiple times in a turn.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. If you see a diamond next to the secondary, it means that you can score it multiple times within a single turn. Or, in the case of old school, you can score different parts of it in the same turn. So you can score the enemy models out of action in the same turn that the leader goes out of action, etc.
Okay, I just accidentally closed the pack, so keep going. We have a bunch of different tactics, that's the word.
You'll be pretty familiar with these secondaries if you practiced with my tournament packet from last year. But if you're brand new, yeah, it's a lot to maybe take in right off the bat. But just know that just take it slow, read through them. They're pretty straightforward once you actually read through them, and you can kind of understand what they're doing and what they're trying to get you to accomplish.
Well,
one of our
as I said, don't view it as 18 different possibilities. In a second, we're going to cut it down to 6, and that is way more manageable. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah,
which will make sense very soon. Did you want to go through the tactics?
Yeah. So other than seize the initiative, all these are straight out of Pariah Nexus. So we have sure footing, barge through, see them coming, and point blank Overwatch. Those are all word for word exactly as they are in Pariah Nexus. So shouldn't be any new information there for anybody that knows about Pariah Nexus. Seize the initiative. This is a special tactic I include at my events to sort of mitigate that first turn, that feels bad of not getting the initiative that you prefer. So you have a chance to pay 2 command points to reroll a single initiative roll. And then it has some wording here for if you seize the initiative and your opponent also tries to seize the initiative, or if you seize the initiative and it ties with what your opponent had already gotten. So there's some wording in there so that it's clear what happens in that scenario. But basically, it's just re-rolling the initiative roll.
Okay.
And then, all the rest are pretty much straight out of Pariah Nexus.
Sure. So point blank Overwatch and see them coming, just to quickly note, you cannot stack those. The wording is incompatible, but I thought, just very briefly as I saw them both, I was like, wait, could I do that? No, you can't. Okay. And then we have one of the big things about the packet right here. I assume it's been mentioned before this, or is this the first time it gets mentioned, this +1 CP?
This is where it's mentioned in the packet, yeah.
Okay. +1 CP per round for being Battleforged, in addition to normal, only applicable. So, very quickly, I would say, I think somebody in the Discord read a little bit too much into the for being Battleforged. You have to be Battleforged to play in this pack. You can't run a non-Battleforged team. So everybody gets this. +1 CP per round means normally in Kill Team, every round, everybody, just for being on the board, with the Battleforge kill team, but everybody's Battleforge, gets 1 CP. You then,
Yep.
as your leader, which you have to have a leader to play the game, your specialism as a leader is you get an additional CP a turn.
Yep.
Now, if your leader dies, you lose that additional CP, so you're left with a single CP a turn that everybody gets. This is saying no matter what happens, you will be getting 2 CP a turn, plus 1 for your leader when he is on the board and alive.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And not shaken.
Good point, yes. That's probably something I've forgotten many a time. I would say that in itself is again another whole competitive discussion about should it be done, should it not.
We kind of had that discussion on our last interview.
We have, yeah. We don't want to dredge that up too much. I personally just feel that the game is more fun. Okay, forget competitive. Yes, it probably is more competitive as well, because having more options available to you in this way allows you to make more interesting decisions, and there's a lot more player interactivity purely because of it. But it is just a better game. It is more fun and it is more competitive. It's more interactive. There's more back and forth on tactics. Whereas before, I genuinely felt I can't use tactics. I need rerolls, which are pretty much, without a shadow of a doubt, the most powerful thing to do, a CP reroll. This gives you options. So I would recommend everybody just always plays VCP, if I'm honest. But yeah.
I mean, I have been loving it myself. I would definitely recommend it.
Okay. Now we get to the reason we were talking about earlier with the secondaries. Don't read it as 18 individual secondaries. That's overwhelming for anybody. This, however, is lovely. Do you want to quickly explain what it is we're seeing here?
Yeah, so you, at the beginning of the game, you'll roll a d12, a 12-sided dice, and whatever the result is, this is the limited secondaries that you'll have access to for you and your opponent, the same set in a game. So, for instance, if you roll a 2 on the d12, you'll have access to Domination, Steadfast, Engage on all fronts, Old School, Lead from the front, and Bounty Hunters. All the rest of the objectives, just think of them as not even existing, because these are the only ones that exist for that game. And you and your opponent have that same set to work with. So it's fair. And they've been balanced around the fact that they'll be limited in this way. So you should always have something that you can score. One really easy one semi-difficult one, and then one that's going to be a challenge for you.
So just to quickly reiterate, as we said before, with each colour here, you can take 2 from any colour. So if we look at table number 1, you could, if you want, take 1 from each, abduction, domination, survivor. Or you could say, actually, don't like any of those, I'm going to go abduction, death from afar, and then 1 from the other 2.
Yep.
And that's how that works. So
yeah,
I remember, I'm going to be honest, when you first sent me this packet, I hadn't read fully the secondaries, how to pick them. So when I saw number 2, and I saw there were only the 2 different colours, I was like, well, you've screwed up, Sheldon. I can't pick that. Because I thought you had to pick 1, because obviously you play with 3 secondaries, and there are 3 colours. I thought it was 1, 1, 1, but no, it's 2, and then another, essentially. So, yeah. So
for the ones where you see where there's 3 of a single color, that just means that you could only ever take 2 of those. So it's those are actually more limited than the ones that have 2, 2, 2. Essentially, is how you can think of it.
Okay, and then it just explains at the bottom there how to use the table. You obviously with this pack you can always just say, actually, I really like pod 3. I think that's the best pod. I'm always going to use that. Or you can roll and get a slightly different game each time. And I think that's also something perhaps we didn't talk about too much earlier in the pack, because obviously we're going through it. But this game, you can make this pack, as you said, 84 different games or something. This can be a super different game every time,
Well, yeah, that's just 84 different missions. If you're talking about
Secondaries included. Yeah.
Secondaries included. Then
84
there's
times 12. Have fun. You figure that out. 960 or something like that. Yeah, okay. All right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different ways to keep the game fresh. A lot of different ways to always have something unique
Yeah.
or a new challenge when you're playing with this packet,
Definitely.
which makes it less boring than some of the previous packets where it was just kind of like you're stuck with like one mission on one board and etc. This lets you kind of open things up, have a lot more variability in your games.
Now, I would say. So, I suppose we could take just a very brief aside to say our thoughts on secondaries, whether they should be open pick, which means, for those that are unaware, just taking that full 18 secondaries and saying pick whatever you want, pick any three, or
Yeah.
playing in pods. Now, of course, the original Arena used pods, didn't it?
To an extent, yeah. Every mission had its own like preset pod.
Yes. Yeah.
So it was a little bit more prescribed than this, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is kind of taken from that concept, I suppose, maybe, but just obviously extended. And I
It was actually
actually,
more the Ultima format that
yeah,
that
Ultima's from Arena, isn't it?
yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah,
The Ultima let you pick cards at random, and
right.
so you could get all movement secondaries or all shooting secondaries,
Right.
which I thought could be it's fun, like for sure in like a casual game, and you could even technically do that with this packet. There's nothing stopping you from printing out the cards available in the TO resources and just shuffling them and dealing them out Ultima style. If you want to get really fun with it. But I thought for any tournament where you want parity between the tables, it was more important to have something where everyone's operating with the same limitations.
Which, to clarify, at a big tournament, the TO will actually roll the D12, and then
Yes,
every table uses that pod for their game.
exactly.
Yeah. So it's yeah, which I think is an important thing to note. I assume it says it somewhere in the optional D12 table rules there,
Yep.
but yeah, it's not that everybody going into game 4 of the tournament is playing with completely different secondaries, which is nice. But
Yeah.
yeah, I honestly just much prefer the pods. It took me a while to come to this realization, but firstly, I find it more fun, um, and I think it's far more beginner friendly. Like
Yeah.
limiting someone to, hey, here's 6 secondaries. You can rock up to the table, 5 minutes to spare, and read 6 secondaries. You
Yep.
cannot read 18 secondaries.
It's true.
So I think this is, and worst case, hey, just shuffle. Here's okay, 6. I'm taking 3.
Yeah.
Um, and you'll probably come out with a much better result than if you shuffled 18. So I'm a big fan of these. I also think, in regards to the more competitive side, this kind of comes down to secondaries. Yes, or opinions on what a secondary really is, but when
Yeah.
it comes to these, you can get a bad roll. In theory,
Yeah.
you could get one of these pods, and you're like, oh no, that's the pod I can't do. That's the one pod I cannot score reliably, and I know it. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, fine. But I actually am generally a big fan that every faction should be building to be flexible. I
Yeah.
think that makes for a far more interesting game than, hey, I've taken this list. This list does this one thing. If I don't get my secondaries, I don't know what I'm doing with this list. I think that's
Yeah.
much better. Even if perhaps
Yeah.
it
I
nerfs
agree.
certain teams and factions because they cannot do that, or people feel they can't do that for some reason, it's just a better game if that's how people are building things, in my
Well,
opinion.
it is important to note that mainly the reason why the primary format is just selection from basically open choice is because I put out a poll, and that was the one that the majority of players preferred. And you when you're doing a big event, you kind of want to focus on the largest common denominator in
Yeah,
that regard. But
definitely.
yeah, for my personal games, I think the pods are my favorite way to play for sure.
Yeah, well, I suppose we could talk that. That's a whole weird TO thing. Maybe if I remember to bring it up at the end of this pack, we can have a discussion about should a tournament pack be based at being, bringing ultimate parity to the game, bringing every faction in line so that every faction has an equal chance, or are you just trying to get people to play games? Are you trying to get people that don't know how to play into the game? Anyway,
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing that's not
A little
related
bit
to
of
this
all
pack. Yeah.
that.
We then have a nice little splash page of the
Yeah.
battleground. So this is from
Shout out to
Luster's Workshop.
Luster's Workshop.
Yeah. This particular terrain, I can't remember what it's called because they were very similar names.
Necromachina.
Okay, that's good to know.
Or Necromachina, I guess.
Okay, it looks lovely. I bought something from him. It wasn't this one; it was the other one.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put that together at some point. I don't like MDF terrain though. So whenever I get around to it. But I have it, and I'm really excited to play with it. Mainly because obviously it's the terrain that's going to be at LVO, and I've said I want to be at LVO. I'm not really hyper focused on competitive kill team at the moment, but part of me does want to go to LVO and just wreck some noobs, just to remind people that I know how to play the game. So
that was pretty cool when you showed up last year and beat Michael Holy in the very first game. That's.
Sometimes you roll hot. What can I say? Sometimes you roll hot. But so it's I'm really glad I picked up my set from him. I got the cheaper version. But yeah.
This is definitely probably the most expensive version of it that you can get is the black already pre-painted MDF Necron stuff with the whole arena set included. This is as a Necron player and Necron enthusiast, as you can see, I definitely had to go for the full Necron terrain setup.
Of course.
But,
yeah.
And I had it branded with my my Kill Team Stream logo.
Very nice. Very nice. Yes.
Which he can do as well.
Yep. He did mine with my Glass Half Dead logo. And all all blue acrylic instead of this. I assume it's green or orange. I don't know. All blue.
He can do different colors if you reach out to him. But yeah, he also does this black glossy paint, which I really like. And then it shows up already pre-painted. All you have to do is glue it together. I mean, nothing beats that.
If I had known that the cheaper version wasn't pre-painted, I probably would have gone with the more expensive version. I'm not going to lie. I hate painting. Okay. So anyway, Battleground rules. Do you want to give us a little breakdown what's happening here? Because, sorry. Before we actually read the rules, let's just look at the actual picture because that might help us. So on here, this is very strange. Okay. This is an open board, so it's not arena. But you do have doors, and you do have arena crates and pipes in here. On this particular picture, they're not, because obviously it's custom done for this specific board. But in general, they will be. There's an arena pipe and the same crates from arena.
Crates.
What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a mix of both, right? It's an open board, so there's the three-dimensionality. You can get up in the sniper tower. You can even get up on that roof. You can get up on all the containers. Heck, you can even climb over the doors. So, I mean, that's if that's not fun, what is fun, right? But the doors operate similar to the new Pariah Nexus arena rules, with the only difference being that there's a way to close them, which you can't do in vanilla Pariah Nexus. Mostly because they were built to be line of sight blockers, so you kind of have to have like some way to close them. But it's basically like a mixture of arena and open board, so it's the best of both worlds. Because people want that, beautiful visual experience when they're playing a game with miniatures. They don't want a flat board with like, just red lines painted on it for where the walls are supposed to be.
Now, yes, very quickly to mention here, obviously it is shown in the picture here, but GW makes mistakes. They put their models into the pitfalls where you literally can't go in Pariah Nexus. On here, in the previous pack, you had done infinitely high terrain. So
Yes.
each of these containers here were you could not get on top of them, etc., etc. As much as if it was a wall from Arena. In this, you
Yeah.
can. It's just
Yep.
regular terrain. So
Yep.
obviously, Harlequins, it's your time, buddy.
Yeah.
Your time.
This is going to be a good packet for Harlequins, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. I'm thinking of running them. Who knows? Uh, is there anything else we need to say about this?
Reserves work as normal because it's an open board.
Yeah.
The little barriers that you see here next to the container, those count as 0 inches tall, just because there's going to be a wide variety
So you
of
can just move straight over them.
what?
So you can just move straight over them as if they're not
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And then there's a little tidbit for model placement rules, which is if you've been playing my tournament packets, you might be kind of used to. But the idea is that you, for instance, you can't create like an unchargeable Tau gunship up in the top of this tower. You're always there's always a way to charge because you can always overlap an enemy model's base if there's no space to put your model.
Okay.
Um,
Now, very quickly, can you stand on top of the doors?
You cannot, only because you can't end your move on anything that is thinner than your base.
Okay.
So you can't end a move on top of the doors.
Okay.
So the battleground rules here on the left is kind of just explaining how you pick which layout, which is the next page. And so it's kind of going into detail about how either you as a player or as the tournament organizer will set up the table to. You can either have it so every table has a set layout, or the layout can change between games. Players can either shuffle a deck of cards, which are included in the tournament resources, or they can just select two that they don't want off the next page and veto them, and then roll a d6 with the remaining options.
So, a few questions in that case. This is
Okay.
purely for me as a player. So, this might not be true. This might get FAQ'd soon. Can I stand on top of the roof of those buildings if I wanted to, for some reason? Yeah, I don't know why I'd want to do that, but yeah. Okay.
Hey, no reason not to.
No, yeah. Can I, on the crates, I think they're like an inch wide. So you can just fit your 25mm base on them. But if I had a 32mm base, like a Marine, they cannot stand on top of that crate. Is that right then? Because your base doesn't fit. Okay. And regarding that charging rule, let's say I had a bunch of... Oh, it doesn't even have to be Tau drones. Let's just say I had a bunch of models forming a line across the top of one of these containers. And then you try to charge me. There's still plenty of room behind these, so that there is room for the model to stand there if they got the crazy charge that lets them go all the way around the backside of the container.
Yeah.
If there's room, they have to make that charge, or because I've placed them correctly, blocking the easy charge up, what happens there?
Well, in that situation, you could place your model on slightly over their base. Okay. So in that situation, you could theoretically charge it the easy charge. You don't have to take the long way around.
So potentially you can get that easy, like I assume these containers are like 3 inches high. You could get that 3-inch charge up. You wouldn't have to make the 12-inch charge all the way around to the back and up behind them, where there is space to stand. Okay. Yeah. All right, fair enough. Cool. Okay, that's all I've got there. Now, terrain layouts. For some reason, I really like looking at these. I don't know why. They're just quite fun. So in the top right-hand corner...
Number 8's really nice.
I agree. I think number 8's where it's at, definitely. So in the top right-hand corner, there's the legend. Now, very quickly, we had mentioned this before. Arena terrain. Arena is no longer sold. However, if you buy from Luster's Workshop, there might be a way to get arena terrain.
Yeah.
So this is still possible to be played. And I suspect that if you play at one of your tournaments, we know that you have like 1 million copies of Arena, so you have all of like the official
Oh yeah.
terrain. Yeah,
There'll be 50 tables worth of terrain at my
yeah,
events. That's no
damn.
problem.
Crazy. So these up here on the top right hand corner, the legend, are all relating to specific terrain setups, I guess they would be, or object
Yeah.
setups that came from Arena.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And there's a lot of third party.
yeah.
I worked with a company or creator called 3D Alien Worlds.
Hmm.
If you have a 3D printer, you can actually order his Necron arena terrain
Right.
file and print it yourself if you have access
Right.
to that. So I mean, there are options available if you can't get the
Yeah.
actual physical arena terrain, although most of that's still pretty easily available on eBay,
Okay.
etc. If you're into that sort of.
And obviously, I think because all of the stuff here is just small scatter terrain, it's quite easy to just proxy something else. Like if you've just
That's
picked
true
up
too.
Pariah Nexus, I mean the crates are almost the same size, really. Just put some of those little
Yeah,
pylons there. I mean that's easy enough. I would say. Yeah.
yeah. The barrels, you can pretty much do two of those
Yeah. Yeah.
doubles and then put one of the singles on
On
top.
top. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all of these terrain setups here, much like with the secondary pods, you roll a d8 because there are 8 setups. Yeah.
No. You roll
No.
a d6. So each player at the beginning vetoes their least favorite. So
Before you roll.
each
Okay.
player, before you roll, each player gets to veto one. Like, oh, I hate number 3.
Oh, okay.
I never want to play on number 3, so that's out of the question. And then my opponent says, yeah, well, I hate number 5, so let's get rid of number 5. And then you roll from the remaining. So then
Oh,
you'd
okay.
have 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8. 4 would become 3, 6 would become 4, 7 would become 5, 8 would become 6, etc.
Yes, this is just a whole bunch of different layouts. I think, if I recall, you did 1 to 4, and then 5 to 8 were done by other people. Is that right?
Yes, I didn't want the inherent natural unconscious biases that I might have for terrain to be present in all of them. So, for instance, the famous Glass Half Dead did number 8 here, as you can
Yes.
see.
Well,
That's
of
why we were
course,
joking about that earlier.
I was considering playing Tau, and my setup was just going to be all the terrain right at the edge of the board. So it was open board for me. No, yeah. Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Strategic Advantage did number 6. They helped with number 5, and number 7 is from the Command Point guys. And then technically number 2 is from Kill Team Academy, Alex. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I haven't played on any of these setups. Naturally, I think mine is the best. But I'm sure all of the rest are better. So, yeah.
Well, Luz did just finish the TTS
Yes.
module for this entire packet, so you can now play
I probably
all
should,
of these
shouldn't I?
super easy. One thing to note, which it kind of shows off in the next page, but it's probably better to talk about it here, is that all these measurements, there's a reason why I haven't done every single tiny little measurement in between, and it's because some people might have different sized containers, some people might have different sized towers and doors, etc. So what I've done is I've tried to make the measurements such that you can use any kind of terrain and it's still going to work. Just note that if you are doing it with different sized things than the official Frontline or Luster's Workshop stuff, it might look a little different, because the containers are not, like the exact size. Like, for instance, on number 2, if you use the GW containers, that door is going to be like at the end of the container instead of halfway down. So like there's certain little things that'll look different, but they should still function perfectly well with any kind of terrain that you might have at your LGS or personally, etc.
Okay. Yeah, indeed. I was going to say something, but I know the next 2 pictures, and that's going to be exactly what I was about to say. So yeah, okay, cool. Indeed, on several of these pictures, you've just got the word center. So yeah,
Yes.
which I think is very self-explanatory. Also, for
Yeah.
example, if we look at number 8, my one, where I'm being awkward here, obviously, is these barriers say center, because I have
Yeah.
no doubt that the actual, even using the official terrain, the actual number that would be to get it where it is would be like, 3.7965 inches or something. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's cool. Yeah, and this then going to the next page, we have just a bunch of different alternative setups here.
Yeah, and as you can see on the bottom, if you make a cool setup with unique terrain, share it. Hashtag Kill Team Championships. We'd love to see all your cool terrain layouts and what you guys did with your own terrain.
Yep, definitely. And you got the at Kill Team Stream there on Twitter,
Yep.
so definitely check that out. And then you've also got all of these ones: Cromlech, FLG, GW, all that
Yep.
stuff. So check all of that out. Now we go to Killzone Arena 2021.
There
So
we go.
what's going on here?
So if you don't want to use the battleground, the Killzone battleground, which we were just going over, you can also use Killzone Arena. So if you have an arena board, all of the missions in this packet and the secondaries should work perfectly fine on all of the arena boards. This just shows you how to set up the terrain for those boards so that they work
Good.
with all the missions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to the terrain layouts on here are terrain layouts, the where you're putting the barrels and stuff. That is custom that you come up, or is that coming out of the book? I think I recognise the generatorium layout. I'm not sure why though. Okay, so this is all.
It's the same as the Bay Area tournament that I did.
Okay.
That's probably why you recognize it. It's the same layouts that I did for that.
Okay.
But different from the arena book. That is a good to know.
Clearly, my default for what is arena has changed to whatever you did. Yeah. Very quickly, with the Crypt of Cynosha there, on the Pariah Nexus board, we can see it right there, there are these blue lines, which, when using Pariah Nexus rules, allows you firing points, or whatever they're called, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And they're like hard-baked onto the board itself. Are those in play here, or do we ignore those? They are.
And that'll actually be on the next page we get to go over.
Brilliant.
So firing points, if you're using Translocum Chamber or the Crypt of Cynosure, the firing points operate just like they do in Pariah Nexus. So if a model's on the firing point and it goes through the white line that's called the firing arc, then you get to add 1 to the hit roll of that attack. And also the pitfalls, the little green lava pools or whatever, Gauss energy pools, whatever they are, they operate just the same as they do in Pariah Nexus. So the only note there is that the determined leap tactic I changed a little bit just because GW's wording was, in my opinion, a little unclear.
Okay.
Yeah, so the command nodes do not work, and you cannot use the access override tactic because the objective placements aren't going to match up with the command nodes like they do in the Pariah missions. So I've just taken those out for this packet.
Okay, cool. Now the door rules here, are they just the Pariah Nexus rules, or are they the same rules you were using on the open board, or are they something else?
They are different. They are because there's no 3-dimensionality, you can't climb over them, which is what I've added in the other one. And other than that, they are exactly like they are in they are exactly like they are in Pariah Nexus.
So they can't be closed.
They cannot be closed with these rules. However, as you see at the bottom of the page, there is a close the door tactic, which I've added. And so you can close the door with this tactic if you are within 1 inch of a doorway with an open door, and there are no enemy models within 1 inch of that same doorway. But you cannot move, shoot, or react to a charge in that battle round.
Okay. And just to very quickly call out up there as well, weapons do not suffer long range penalties on any of the 6 arena boards, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Just like in Pariah Nexus.
Yep. The updated UCC rules, yep.
Yep.
And during deployment, a player cannot set any of their models outside of their own deployment zone. For anybody confused, not only does that mean reserves, you cannot bring in reserves, you also cannot set up certain models. We're looking at you, Space Marines, because you do all the weird stuff, concealed positions. So, for example, a tactic that I really like with Marines is to take 2 eliminators, and you can set them up as close to the enemy as you want, over 9 inches away from them. You can still do that in the open boards. You cannot do it in this one.
Yep.
Yep. They have to start in the deployment zone.
We'll do that in the open boards, but in Arena they are limited to the deployment zones.
Yes, and I suppose just another quick thing to mention: this was never the case in the last packet either. But for example, if we scroll up a little bit here, in the arena boards, certain things cannot go through walls. You cannot measure through a wall for any reason, including with auras. So one of the common places this would come up would be a Tyranid warrior trying to keep models in synapse. That's quite difficult for them. 12 inches doesn't go a long way when you have to go 6 inches along a wall and then round and then back. That's quite a big effect. And that also, that's just an example there. And I forgot why I was saying it, so I'm just going to move straight on. But there was a reason I was saying that. So sorry, yes. So when it comes to, that's not how the containers work in this. They are not walls. You can measure straight through them. If you are thinking of setting up concealed positions, you don't measure to the terrain bit, the container, up, over, down. You just measure straight through as if it's not there. Straight as the eagle flies.
Yep, exactly. You're right about that.
Okay.
And then one just quick note about the arena tactics. I've added blow up a door.
Yes.
A lot of people are wondering why that's in there because it's pretty much useless post Pariah Nexus.
Yep.
The real reason is that I gave out a bunch of tactic cards and told everyone that they can always use them at my arena events.
Well, there you go.
So for the purposes of fairness, if somebody busted that out, then the other person might go, what the heck's going on here? At least now you know what the rules are, so you're aware that could happen. Although I doubt anyone's going to use that tactic.
LVO pay to win if you went to SoCal. Okay.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
I'm a man of my word, so if I tell everybody they can use a tactic forever, they can use it forever. But, it's probably not useful. Let's just be honest.
Okay, so now we come to a similar issue. It's not an issue, it's the thing. A similar thing here, where if you, again, are wanting to just roll on your deployments, you can keep it random by just rolling on this. Is it 6 missions? I'm assuming.
Yes, 6 missions.
So roll a d6 and play the mission that you want to play. Or that you roll, not that you want to play. That's the opposite of what I just said. Yep. So, and again, in a TO, in a tournament setting, the TO would roll on this and then everyone plays the same mission. You don't have...
Or in my events, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Goes right down the line.
Okay. All right.
So, nice and easy. Mission 1 is the first mission. Mission 6 is the last mission.
Oh, okay. I'm with you. Right. You don't mean that Table 1 is playing Mission 1, Table 2 is playing Mission 2?
No, definitely not.
All right. Yeah, okay. Now, does that mean that in a regular tournament, which would only be 5 rounds, you'd never play Mission 6?
Technically, that would mean that.
Okay. Cool. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, so a very quick thing to note, and this, I think, might shock a lot of people. Certainly, I always think of it as a little bit odd. But when you're playing a competitive game, this is coming from Arena, which no doubt brings it over from 40k in some manner. I don't know how it originated originally, but here we have. You're going to notice, obviously, you have your deployment zones and you have your objectives. You are also playing with your secondary objectives that you've already picked, but every single mission has a bonus objective. This is one that is already there. It's not an additional, you must decide to pick this as well as one of the secondaries. It is an additional objective. They all have
Yep.
one. They're all a little bit different. So, for example, on mission 1, duality, as it's called, the bonus is hold 2, score 1 VP if you control exactly 2 objective markers at the end of any battle round.
Exactly.
These can vary wildly, but yeah, they are completely different. So, I guess if we want to, we can talk about the reason behind that. But first, let's just go through the different missions, I suppose, because there's not a huge amount to say really. It's just roll on the board, man. See what you get. Yeah. Do you have
so
anything?
mission 1 you already went over.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
No. I would say, do you have anything like specific that you wanted to talk about with duality? For example, I'm seeing like there's nothing in the center. Is there?
Yeah.
Why did you decide to make it like that? That's going to be a huge question to ask for every single map. Let's not do that. Let's just move on. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think, yeah. Maybe we can just go over like the mission bonuses. So you already went over mission 1.
Yeah.
Mission 2. At the end of the battle round, score 1 VP if your leader controls an objective that is not touching your deployment zone. So I think this is probably one of the more interesting ones from the packet, because there are 3 objectives here in the center. There's one in your enemy's deployment zone, and then there's one in your deployment zone. If your leader's controlling the one in your deployment zone, it doesn't count towards the bonus, which is the usual game plan for a kill team. But in this mission, it kind of pushes you to get that guy out there and out on the enemy lines, maybe, or
now
one of these spots.
in your pack, do you pick your secondaries after you know the mission you're playing, right? Yeah. So, for example, if you find yourself rolling number 2, mission 2, you can say, okay, I'm doing it. I'm taking this, and I'm going to take the secondary lead by example, if that's one you can take. And you're kind of going lead from the front, and you're going all in on getting the leader out there, sort of thing. That's a possibility. Exactly. Which takes us to mission 3.
Yeah, recon sweep, so people will recognize this one. At the end of the battle round, if a model from your kill team is wholly within your enemy's deployment zone, score 1 VP. Pretty straightforward, although you're going to have some trouble getting to that deployment zone because there's 3 important objectives in the way here that make it fun and difficult challenge. On open board, you might be able to come in from reserve, but I'd imagine that there's going to be somebody there trying to guard that objective that's in your deployment zone. So it's not going to be an easy mission bonus, but I think it's going to be a challenge and fun.
Okay.
Mission 4, assassinate. So high-profile targets. People will recognize this. Score 1 VP for every enemy specialist that is taken out of action. Commanders do not count as specialists, so that's important to note that leaders do.
Okay.
Then mission 5, separated forces. Sector cleared at the end of the battle round. Score 1 VP if there are no enemy models wholly within either of the table quarters that contain your deployment zones. So pretty much the half of the board that if there's any models in that half of that board that have your deployment zones, then you're not going to score it. But most people will probably score it turn 1 and then work hard to not score. Work hard to score it the next turn. And then mission 6, survival of the fittest. Score 1 VP for every specialist, excluding commanders, leaders, and specialist retainers still alive at the end of the battle. So it doesn't count Gottfried.
Okay, you're right.
Doesn't count Pius Vorn, doesn't count, Ryan and Rouse, but it counts all the regular specialists that you would have in a battle.
Cool. Okay, that's a really interesting one. That's survival of the fittest, I've got to say.
Oh, yeah.
Having those objectives all the way back in the corner there, pretty tough.
Yeah, but this would be a good one for hold the perimeter.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are the 6 missions.
Yep.
Now, we don't really need to go over the tournament rules, do we? For anybody that wants to know what these are just the basics you have to know. These are the things that say, do not cheat in this game. You can use a chess clock if you want. This is how
There's a
long you
kind of
have
good
to.
note here
Mm,
for beginning players that
mhm.
the pregame sequence is kind of a good guide for how to play through the beginning of the game. If you haven't played a tournament before, or you're just new to the game, if you read that first part, the pregame sequence, that kind of shows you what to do with your opponent to get started. You check the board and the terrain, share the command roster, choose your secondaries, highlight your models on your roster, reveal your secondaries, and then proceed to deployment. So it's kind of a nice little flow chart if you're new to the game for what to do in the beginning.
I suppose
And then
go quickly mention painting modeling requirements.
yeah, so the it's kind of like standard for most ITC tournaments that you have to have your models painted and they have to be modeled with the actual equipment that they say that they're modeled with in your
Mm,
command roster. So, for instance, if it says it's got a plasma gun, it's got to have a plasma gun, that sort of
yeah.
thing. Um, that way, you're not running a bunch of guys with flamers and telling everybody that they're bolters, and people get confused, especially in a tournament. You see it
Yeah.
across the way. You see a model that you think you know what it is, so you're planning for it, and then they tell you, oh no, it's actually a totally different model that can catch people off guard. A lot of stuff going through people's heads in the middle of a tournament. They don't want to also be
What is that?
remembering
Yeah.
what kind of weird stuff you've done with your models. So it just makes it easier for everybody to have everything really obvious, really clear.
There,
Um,
there, there is a whole kind of conversation behind this about what is a proxy, what is a conversion, etc., etc. We're not going to go into that here. Just know that,
yeah,
odd as it might sound, don't be too scared of this rule. Is all I'm going to
yeah.
say. If you
And in
have an
your casual
awesome,
games, don't worry about it
oh yeah,
at
no,
all.
never
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
In your,
if you've
in your
done an
casual
awesome
games, don't.
conversion, doesn't matter. People are still going to
Yeah,
play with you. If you've done a proxy, as long as the proxy makes sense, people are still going to play with you. Okay.
yeah,
Um, don't be scared off by this. Also, you don't have to have golden demon level painting here. As long as there's a bit of paint on it, that's fine. Yeah.
yeah. The standard for GW is even better than my standards.
Yeah.
I I I I don't mind if you've just got some paint on it, like a
Yeah.
couple
Yeah.
bits of contrast.
Oh, all of my models. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Was there anything else you wanted to cover about the rules page?
For really competitive people, there is an interesting thing here with overtime. If a model or if
Mm.
a game is a Swiss format, this doesn't apply. But in the elimination, single elimination, so in the champions, that second day where there's the top 8, this would apply. You can go into overtime if a game is tied instead of just calling it for a tiebreaker, and then it can actually go into additional rounds past the 4. And if you actually look at the score sheets, that's what those little D20s on the side are for, scoring your overtime points.
Okay.
But yeah, that's hopefully never going to really come up in most games, but it's there as a contingency for something like the final round of a big tournament, that there's something in place to actually adjudicate what's going on there.
So, for
But for most Swiss
example, yeah.
tournaments, you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Sorry, what were you saying?
So let's say you're round 3, round 4, whatever, and the people on the bottom table haven't finished their game at the end. They don't need to go into overtime. They can do a tiebreaker.
Yeah,
But top table, top 3, completely even. Tiebreaker doesn't say anything. The judge can say keep going for a turn,
yeah,
basically. Yeah, cool. Okay.
exactly.
And then obviously seeing the chess clocks here, you're saying they're being set to 40 minutes. Does this mean the official time for play is whatever 80 minutes is, an hour and 20 minutes? Is that your...
So the chess clock doesn't record time when you're in the morale phase. So I've changed the
Oh,
time
okay.
to account for that, and it also doesn't count for the mustering.
Okay.
So or deployment, or even the initiative rolls. So essentially, you hit the clock right after initiative, and then you pause it when you get to morale phase. So there's a little bit of extra time in there. Should be about an hour and a half for a game, but it'll be an hour and 45 to account for like moving the train and everything.
Right. So is that how yours doing it at your tournaments? An hour and 45 per round?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hour and a half for the game, plus the 15 for the
15 to chill out.
moving all the terrain and
Okay.
measuring it and all that stuff, mustering.
Awesome. Which takes us to score sheets. Is there
Score
anything
sheets.
here you want to point out, or is it just a score sheet?
Yeah, I already pointed out what those little
Yep.
D20s are on the side. Although you can use those for anything you want. You want to put a little bit of extra notes over there, like maybe you want to record what secondary pod that you and your opponent picked. You can record it there. It's a little bit extra space. That's really the only kind of important thing. There's 3 different score sheets for each different format. So there's
Okay.
hold kill, hold 3, and commanders. So whichever primary format you pick your score sheet to match. That's a good note to give players.
Right. Well, I've got a question. Two
Okay.
questions, in fact. Firstly, if we look at secondary objectives, 3, there's a little grayed out one. What's that telling?
Yes. That's for old school. So if you take the old school secondary, you have the potential of scoring 4 points. It's the only secondary that you can score 4 points. So if you choose old school as your secondary, I'd put it in that 3rd slot so you can use that fourth little one if you need it.
Okay. Now, somewhat. In fact, actually, I think that the score sheet actually accounts for this. Some people in the past with other packs, I believe, have argued or questioned. They've questioned, how are you scoring primary objectives? Let's say, so obviously you can only ever score 9 max, and there are 4 rounds, so you can max this in 3 turns. However, some people have asked, let's say in all 3 turns, these first 3 turns, I score hold 1 objective, okay? And then throughout the rest of the game, I score 8 total. And so we go into round 4, where I can only score 1 more point. Now, logically, I would only be able to score that 1 more from holding more than your opponent, let's say. Let's say that's 1 I didn't score earlier. But in round 4, let's say I don't score that. So can I score for a 4th time hold 1 objective marker?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
I knew that was the case, but sometimes it's been questioned, and I just wanted to make sure it was clear.
Yeah.
There is not unlike the secondaries where you can only score each of them once. Although these are technically separate objectives, they can be scored as many times, but the total cannot exceed 9.
Exactly.
And
you got it.
There are, for those of you out there questioning, don't forget that each mission, as it shows on the score here, has the bonus objective.
Yep.
Again, can only be scored 3 times. Now you also note that means you can score more than 21 total? Or is that not true?
No. You can never score more than that total unless you go into overtime. That's the one edge case is if you go into overtime, that can change your total score. Other than that, one scenario, 21 is the max. Even if you get all
if you
9,
get everything,
you get all
all 9,
and you took
all 9,
school,
all
so
3.
You get 4.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, there's no way to get more than 21.
Okay. Cool. And then so we get the hold kill, we get the hold 3, we get the commanders, we get a command roster because it's there. Why not? Cool. Good to see.
Yep.
And then we get the event details. And then there's the page. Okay. Is there anything about the event details page you want to...
It tells you so you know what to expect at each event. For instance, and this is actually something good to point out to someone who might be wanting to run their own tournament, how to tell people, what kind of format will be at the event. So, for instance, for the Bay Area Open, which probably isn't going to be happening, probably won't happen this year, but just in case, it's going to be the Arena 2021 with hold kill at 125 points. SoCal Open Day 1 Battleground, so that's the open layout. Hold 3, 125 points for day 1. And then Battleground Commanders, 200 points for day 2. The Kill Team Championships, the big championship is going to be Battleground, Hold Kill, 125 points, and that's going to be Saturday. And then the top 8 goes into Sunday. And then Sunday, there's going to be a Commanders tournament, Battleground Commanders, 200 points. After Dark, which is the cool late night Saturday event that we have at Las Vegas, we're going to do the Battleground Hold Kill D12 table, which means that you're going to use those optional D12 pods that we were talking about earlier, and it's going to be at 125 points. And then there's going to be pods on Friday. Now, it says here Hold Kill and Hold 3. Basically, the pods on Friday are going to kind of serve as like a first come, first serve. So you show up, you say what kind of format you want to play. If the 8 people show up that also want to play that format, immediately you go into a pod, you get to start playing. And when you're finished, you can join another pod. When you're finished, you can join another pod. If you want, you can maybe do 4 pods in one day if you get them all done. There's no limit. If you want to show up halfway through the day at like 2 in the afternoon, maybe a bunch of other people want to show up at 2, and you just get into a pod at that time. So it's kind of like a free-for-all pod on Friday. So that's why I kind of have the 2 different options there. There's going to be Hold Kill and Hold 3, okay. Whichever one you prefer. You just kind of sign up when you get there, and you get once enough people show up to make a full pod, then it just gets formed right then.
Okay, sounds good. Now it's called the Kill Team Championships Las Vegas, it seems, and that is part of LVO.
Yes.
Yeah. So last year, we were, we were the biggest Kill Team event so far, and it was in the same hotel as the massive 1,000-player 40k event. But we were upstairs because they didn't have enough room, if I recall.
No, we were upstairs specifically because they put us up there, and it was
fair enough.
It was I preferred it, but actually it's going to be in a different. It's going to be in a different venue this year, so it's not going to be Bally's.
Okay, fair enough. Was there anything else we wanted to say about the event details there?
Pretty straightforward. I mean, if you're a TO, just pick which format you want if you're going to be running your own event, and this is a good way to kind of format so people know what format's going to be at your event if you're going to be running your own with this packet. That gives you a good...
Yes, one thing I wanted to point out there, I probably should have mentioned this ages ago. So the Battleground Hold Kill D12 table there made me think of it. Obviously, to the beginner players there, I was pitching, do not read 18 secondaries, just play a pod. So you're saying, for example, LVO, in the standard here, Battleground Hold Kill 125 points, which in I think a lot of people's minds is the premium, this is the best player event kind of thing. You're not playing with the pods for secondaries. It's open pick.
Exactly.
You're still limited to a maximum of 2 from each category, but there's no pods. So you just take any 2 and then any 1 or 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to know. Right, and then we get special thank.
I was just saying, but any TO that wants to run this pack, you can run it however you want. You can run it with the D12 pods. You can run it arena, open, anything. It's up to you. It's the packet is your oyster. That's terrible. Never mind. I didn't say that.
Okay, and then we get these special thanks to Games. Oh, I don't think Games Workshop needs a special thanks. I think they're making enough money.
Yet they get the top one.
Yeah. And then a bunch of other people come in, check all of them out. I'm sure they're all great people.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Kill Team Ranked and Kill Team Granada, they're doing the Spanish and French translations, I think. So we'll be able to have this packet in other languages. And then, Lester's Workshop makes the terrain, so go check them out. Glass Half Dead is this amazing YouTube creator here.
He sounds like the kind of guy that says hello way too much. I don't know.
I've got a whole bucket of double and triple hellos over here that I'm just waiting to spend,
Oh god.
getting those dividends.
Okay. Awesome. I think that's the end.
Yeah.
That's the end of the pack. I've scrolled back up to the top at least.
Yeah.
That was a lot. I think, was there anything you feel like we didn't touch on or that we missed there?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, we didn't really kind of go into like all the TO resources and stuff, but
I think they
that's
can figure that
kind of
out. Yeah.
yeah, they can figure that out.
Yeah. I think the only thing I would add, which again should have done right at the beginning. Oh well. For the commanders, this is not, because obviously I've talked about Commanders International on this channel
Oh
before.
yeah, yeah.
This is not Commanders International. This is very different. So if you're looking at
Yes.
playing this version of Commanders, read the damn rules. I think the big thing to keep in mind is that you essentially play with the whole of the kill team rules. So you are allowed to
Yeah.
take multi-level, not just commanders, but also specialists.
Yes.
Which means I have no idea what the commander's pack does. I cannot tell you what any specialist does at level 2. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I've never
Yeah.
played one. So, I know nothing about that pack. But yeah, so make sure that you read what's actually happening if you're going to play
Yeah.
commanders in this pack. Apart from that, I think
Yeah.
we touched on everything.
Yeah. I think commanders. Oh, I mean, I guess there's like, if you're playing commanders, there are some other special rules that come into play, like who can take which commanders. Some of the teams don't have them, and but yeah, again, that falls under read the rules. There's a whole
Yeah.
section there just for commanders. Should be pretty straightforward once you read through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, I think we're done.
Yeah.
Was there
Awesome.
anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, just check out killteamstream.com. It should be the easiest way to get to all these. So you can
Yes.
find all the packets on my event data page. You can find all the tournaments on the tournaments page. You can find my FAQ and all that stuff. So it's a nice one-stop shop for getting all this. And if you're a tournament organizer with a small store or a store owner, think about this packet for your events. I think it makes it really easy to run an event and almost kind of simple. Like Brain Dead. Like you can just kind of, this is what we're gonna do, everybody. Here's all.
You could just roll it out of the book in 10 minutes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's all there. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Is there anything else? I'm really asking myself this. I'm not really asking you. I was like, is there anything else we haven't talked about? I don't think so. I think that's everything. So if somehow you've made it, an hour and a half in this podcast, and you haven't checked the description or the top comment, which I will have pinned, the chances are pretty damn good that I've given you a link, not only to killteamstream.com, but also specifically straight to this packet. Go check those out. So that's going to be the easiest way to get there. Apart from that, I think we're done. If you want to jump in and have a chat about this packet, check out my Discord. It's been posted there. That's where things are going to happen. Also, a bizarre thing about Discord is, hey, if you're thinking of going to one of these events, in my Discord there is going to be a specific tournament event channel. So if you want to meet up with other people that are playing Kill Team from this Discord, maybe before the day or whatever, go in there. Just say, hey, I'm playing this. I'm there. Anybody want to meet up, grab a drink, or play some early Kill Team or whatever? That's how it was done back in Nova and LVO with years gone past. So definitely jump in for that. So that bizarre little.
It's been a great resource.
Yeah,
your Discord is a great resource for anybody interested in Kill Team, or like us, hyper competitive and on the cutting edge of what's possible in Kill Team. We're always I think helpful to new players, and then also good at chatting and coming up with like hyper competitive questions and stuff for the more experienced players. So it's a good resource for anybody that's interested in Kill Team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, certainly me personally, my focus recently has been far more beginner guides, get people into the game, because I think that just interests me more naturally. But, you know, at some point, once we're closer to LVO, once we've kind of been given the thumbs up, yes, this is happening, expect my Discord to take, or at least me personally, to take a sharp turn towards hyper competitive lists and play and discussion and all that stuff. Yeah. You're probably going to see that on the channel as well, because obviously my channel is basically the things I'm interested in talking about. So I'm not going to be doing beginner guides if I'm trying to maximize this specific list, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Makes
thank
sense.
you very much, everybody, for making it this far. If you've made it this far and you're a subscriber, you get the elusive triple hello. Boom. Wow, I know. It's amazing. It's amazing. and genuinely, on these long podcasts, like 1% of people make it this far. So thank you. If you're one of those people.
It's probably me. Just
Yeah, it's probably it's you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, genuinely, any help my channel can get, super helpful for me. I mean, I just hit 10k, which is amazing. Thank you to everybody that helped me get there. But I'm still a tiny channel. You know, like, I still can't guarantee a video I put out will get over 1,000 views, even though I've got 10,000 subscribers. So it's like, all engagement and stuff like that helps. So thank you very much. And I hope that this video has helped you. This has certainly solidified a lot of things in my mind. And I don't mind saying this, but once I get back to playing, hopefully June, I'm feeling like June is when I get back out there properly. I'll have had both my jabs and I'll be ready to go. But I'm basically only going to play this pack because it's kind of everything. I don't need another pack. I personally like hold kill 125. If I want to play something, I'm just going to play this pack. It's got all the secondaries there. It's got all the different terrain layouts. It's got. I mean, this is the pack I'm going to play, and I can't really see why I would play anything else, to be honest.
I mean, that's the goal. The goal is really to sort of make it all. What's the word I'm looking for? But like every tournament, everybody playing is all playing the same thing, so that it's like parity between every game and every tournament. So our competitive scene can grow because there's a standard, you know.
That's a whole other conversation, which I would like to have one day. I mean, like, honestly, when it comes to Kill Team needs a standard, I think there's a really interesting conversation to be had in that. But that's not for this, because I've already given the triple hello, so we can't.
Yeah,
you know,
that's fair.
That's that's the hard cutoff. We can't keep going. So yeah, so I'm really excited for the pack. I'm glad it's out. Once I get back to things, I'm going to be printing it out. I'll be taking it to every time I play a game, saying, "Hi, do you want to play this one?" And I genuinely just won't play anything else. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And anyway, do you want to say goodbye, Sheldon?
Triple goodbye.
Oh, a triple goodbye. Blimey. Okay, thank you very much for watching, everybody. This has been great to have you here if you've made it this far. Let me know what you think of this pack. I see very few things wrong with it, and I think it's really good. It's an excellent resource for the community at large. So thank you very much, Sheldon, for doing this. Another great pack you've put out here. And
thank you.
Drop a comment. Tell us what you think. Yeah, there you go. All right, everybody, this has been Glass Half Dead and Kill Team Stream. I hope you've had a good day and continue to have a good day. Goodbye.